tools for the job on this windy day. 2-ton jack, axle stand, freeing fluid, copper ease, a breaker bar, a ratchet, extension bar, telescopic bar for taking the wheel off, and a couple of rails of sockets, because I don't know what size the bolts are until I get there. This is the part I'm replacing today. It's the upper control arm. It's the cranked one with bushes at either end. I've left this till last because basically this is a really expensive component. When I first started looking at it on eBay, they were £100. I've managed to find this one, which is a Recon one, a discount price of 15. So I bought 2 of them for 30. And they seem in much better condition than the ones that are on there. So if we now look under the car, you can just see I've jacked the car up directly underneath the spring, and then behind it I've put in an axle stand because I need to let it back down a bit in order to be able to get at the bolts inside. So the part I'm after, we come up here, is this. This is the end of it. This is a bolt into a captive nut, and then it goes off, and there's the other end just there. Just going to squirt some compound in here just to help loosen it up. I've already done this a few times before, so hopefully the big dose that I've given it will make it easy to undo. Don't hold your breath. Okay, so I've put a 15mm socket on there with a breaker bar, and I'm just going to have a go at undoing that using the extension tube. And that's actually quite easy because this is the one I've undone before. I have noticed that the other side, which is a captive nut, looks a bit mullered, so I reckon somebody in the past has had a go at doing this, not me by the way, and tried to undo the nut. But that's welded to the, it's welded to the bracket. You can see it's a pretty long bolt, and it's actually now just being held in the arm itself. So let's just come out, that all moves, and that goes up and down. That's the other end of the link there. That's also a 15mm bolt. And then we can see this moving it, but you can see it's pretty wiggly and it makes a noise. I'm hoping this is going to fix my problem. I'll just take this one off. I've already loosened this, and it's the one I've taken off before, so I'm just going to take it off with a ratchet. So we stick the 15mm ratchet on there with the sockets on, and that's just going to come off, so I'll do that now. Right, bolts out both ends, so we should be able to hopefully just pull that out. Alright, there we go. And right down to the next one. Well, that Recon one I've got is actually a second-hand part, genuine Jaguar, but you can see it's nowhere near as corroded as that one, and the bushes all look nice. Let's hope that they're worth the £15 half price on eBay that I paid for them. just before I put these parts back on, I've coated all the bearing surfaces in copper-ease, and I've coated the bolts. This is a tin of compound that I bought, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and I'm still using it. I've been using copper-ease for about 40 years, and it is amazing stuff, and I've never once had a failure. I've never had something undo, as sometimes you read about. Copper-ease is basically oil with copper particles in it. The oil dissolves away and the copper stays in there, and just prevents seizing. And this side is a very good example of that, because that came out so easily. The other side, I think, is going to be much more difficult. So we'll put the part back in. Assembly is a reversal of disassembly. Well, I can't believe it started to rain. I've tapped the bracket on either side. Only a few gentle taps with a £2 application stick. I didn't have to hit it hard, but it was just enough to open it up so that I can just put the end in now. So that goes in like that, and then drops into the other side. And I'll put the bolt in either end and hopefully do that up. Make sure it's with the bend going downwards, and not as I did it the first time round, the bend going upwards, because suddenly you realise that will destroy your bodywork. So I've done the 2 bolts up as hard as I can. I'm just going to put the breaker bar and do a quarter turn to pinch it up nice and tight. If you're doing it professionally, you'd use a torque wrench, but I don't know what the settings are, and I never use torque wrenches. Probably need to put a disclaimer in there somewhere. Well, this is the other side of the car, the near side, and this is the side where all the noise comes from. So I'm going to have a go at getting this one off. I've already put the compound in, and if you look to the back, you can see that I've cleaned that up. But maybe you can also see that that bolt has had the head rounded, and I've got a feeling this is going to be a real problem. So we'll give it a go and see what happens. What I've done is I've gone and found a brand new socket with no wear on it at all. It's actually one that I use for building my aluminium electric guitars, and I've put it on the extension bar, and I've been striking it with the old application stick, the mighty hammer of Thor here, and that has gradually loosened it off. So I'm going to be doing this for the next 10 minutes, I imagine. Of course, you have to make sure you don't smack anything on the brakes or on the suspension as you're doing it. Oh, this is giving me so much grief. I'm trying to heat it up now with a kitchen caramelizer that I borrowed off my mum, because it just will not undo. And hopefully if I can heat the nut up, that will break the bond. Hurrah and huzzah! You know what, I never thought this bastard was going to come off. I should have done that earlier on. This is a torque wrench. It's wound up to its full power, 150. It's just about going up to get it off. Right, I've got it out. The bracket's a bit rusty inside, so I'm going to brass wire brush that, clean it up. It's also a bit distorted, so I'm going to give it a bit of a whack with the big hammer, just so that it will easily go back together, which is what I had to do on all the other components. Now I'm replacing it with a new one, and I've put the near side bolt in just loose, hand tight, and you'll see now that at the other end it doesn't actually reach the bracket because the whole of the axle assembly has dropped down. So I'm going to need to use the jack to lift the assembly up and get it into the right place. Now remember that I have got the axle stand holding it up. I've been lifting it up with the jack positioned directly underneath the spring. You can see that it's getting quite close now, so hopefully if I can keep going, it should just push it into where I want it. So I managed to get it in and I can do it up. What I've done is I've swapped the bolt that was trying to round its head for the good bolt and put that to the rear. That means the one that is damaged is near the front and is easy to get at if I ever have to do this again, which I don't anticipate I will. Taking it for the road test now. I've changed the top control arms, the bottom control arms, the anti-roll bar bushes and the drop links to try and get rid of this noise in the back of the car. So I'm really hoping that this is it, because if it isn't, it means the shocks have gone, and I really hope that is not the case. Reversing, going forward. I'm going to go down the little back lane with all the lumps and bumps and hope I'm not going to hear that horrible noise. Well, the ride feels different already. I don't know why, I feel like I'm sitting up higher. So I'm just going down a little back lane, quite lumpy. I'm going to hammer it down the hill where it's very lumpy. Oh, this is good. I've got that horrible knocking sound. Over a big hole there, make the sound it's supposed to make. Well, that was very satisfactory. There's only a very slight noise coming out the back now, and I still think it's this. If I go over something, it makes that sound. So I've just stuck some liner in there, a bit of bubble wrap, double-sided automotive tape, and stick that down. Yeah, that's all very loose. But no more horrible smacking and clanking there sound. You will be illuminated!